This is mind-boggling to watch. Meliskoski here, or Netanyahu as he likes to be called, is actually telling the American people that their biggest threat are their fellow citizens.
And this vilification of Israel, the Jewish people, and Western values, it must be resolutely fought by civilized societies to safeguard their future. This is why we must all commend President Trump's decisive actions against anti-Semitism.
A government can do in 2 months more than any organization can do in its lifetime.
You're alluding to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, none of them are any good on the right. On the left, I don't like any of these anti-Semites. And
this vilification,
anti-Semites, most of these people running around, we're not going to win their hearts and minds because they don't have hearts and they don't have minds.
Vilification.
So, how are we going to, there's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding, and that's what the Trump administration is doing for the first time.
Imagine if the President of the United States went to a foreign nation and told their president that they need to deport their own citizens who are anti-American. What would you think of that nation's president if he complied? Why on earth would Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson not be able to criticize a foreign country? Netanyahu has convinced the American people that there's this radical Islam. There's no radical Judaism. He's not radical Judaism, but there's radical Islam out there that's coming for America, even though they're literally on the other side of the world. And they are his enemies because Israel is trying to expand into the Middle East. That's what's going on here. This is not rocket science. You've been told that this is impossible to understand. It's really not. Israel is trying to get more land. That's why they don't want to just take out Hamas. They don't want to send anybody in there and get 2,000 members of Hamas and deal with that little tiny non-army with no airports and no military equipment really to speak of. But what they want to do is bomb the shit out of that entire area so that it's useless, so that they can take it over and expand their empire. Because Israel is the size of a postage stamp, and Israel will try to tell you this isn't an apartheid state because look, we have Muslims here worshiping right here in Israel.
People who have never been to Israel are going to tell you it's an apartheid state, and yet here behind me you can see tens of thousands of Muslim worshippers who have just finished their prayers on the Temple Mount for Ramadan.
Yes, of course you do. You don't have a problem with any Muslims except for the ones that are on land that you want. Because you're a nation, and your nation's interest is to expand its borders, like all nations. But this Lord Manifest Destiny right here is trying to expand the state of Israel at the cost of the United States citizens. We are the ones that pay for their military. We are the ones that use our military to fight their wars. We spent $2 trillion of our money in Iraq, and we got nothing for it. We do this on behalf of Israel's expansion. They're telling Syria where they can place their military. They are telling people what they can do while they commit a genocide and scrape the people off the remaining land that they want to inhabit. That's what's going on here, and everybody can see it clearly. So there's only two explanations. Either this man calls all the shots and Israel is blackmailing and using America to achieve its goals, or the state of Israel is a U.S. territory, in essence. That we are one and the same. That the reason that we protect Israel with everything we've got is because that is the new frontier of the American empire. And we have, for some reason, a need to take over the Middle East. Now, that's very hard to believe. I can't imagine why America doesn't have enough land of its own here, but we are trying to get Canada and Greenland. So it might make sense that we think we're just going to take over everything and expand into the Middle East.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
I don't know. I'm not privy to these discussions. But what I can tell you is, it is absolutely clear with Epstein and JFK that it makes more sense that Israel is blackmailing American politicians to achieve its own expansion and its own growth. And for some reason, there's an existential threat that keeps our politicians absolutely terrified of going against this man, to the point where they're willing to actually censor and deport their own citizens and legal immigrants in order to please the ambitions of a foreign country.